Hi guys, it's Cornish Kayak Angler and I've got a new toy to play with. It's the Bixpy J2 Outboard Motor Kit, and it's a lightweight plug and play motor system for kayaks and other small watercraft. And in this video I'm going to take a closer look at this kit, see what's included, then I'm going to run through installing it on my Hobie Outback here. Once installed, I'm going to hit the water and see how this performs. Let's take a look. Now before I dive in and take a look at the Bixpy Motor Kit, got to ask, why am I putting a motor on my fishing kayak? Well, it's not something I've really ever explored before. For the last 10 years of kayak fishing, I've been paddling, or more recently pedaling, a Hobie kayak, and I really enjoy that. So why a motor? Well, as long as fishing kayaks have been around, people have been going, oh, let's stick a motor on it, let's make it easier for myself. I'm not doing all the work, a motor's doing it for me, great. But for many years, people have been bodging, for use of a better word, transom mount trolling motors onto fishing kayaks, and there's been all sorts of DIY approaches to doing that. There's never been anything that's been really clean and off the shelf. I mean, there's a few mounts out there now, a few people are making mounts that make it easier to attach that style of clamp-on transom style trolling motors to fishing kayaks, but it never looks that great. It looks, to me, it looks a bit ugly. You've got this massive trolling motor sticking out the back of a kayak or off the side of the kayak. It doesn't look all that efficient, and it looks quite heavy and bulky on the kayak. So it's something I've never really explored or thought about until Bixby Motors have come along. And they've only recently become available in the UK through Cornwall Canoes and the Canoe Shops Group stores. So I've been able to get one of these to have a play with, and Bixby have this plug and play system. It's quite a small, compact, lightweight system. They've got a whole range of adapters that make it dead easy to fit and install to a kayak in quite a clean and simple way. So it's not big, it's not bulky, it's not taking up too much space, and it's lightweight. So all of a sudden it's become quite attractive to perhaps, let's have a go, let's see what all the fuss is about, because people have really gotten into using motors on kayaks over the last few years especially, and I can see the appeal. You're doing less work, the motor's doing it for you. Or perhaps if you're trolling lures, you can troll lures silently through the water at a nice slow speed using a motor without splashing a paddle about. Or it can be great as just a safety backup. Say you're out offshore somewhere, all of a sudden the weather kicks in, or you've got a few miles to head back to shore and you're tired after a long day. You could just kick the motor into action and get that to give you that extra bit of assistance to get back to shore. So yeah, I can see the appeal. So I'm going to go through now, have a go rigging this up onto my Hobie Outback, get it on the water, and we'll see what all the fuss is about. Right, let's open up the Bixby box and see what we get inside the J2 Motor Kit. Opening the box, we've got this information leaflet here. There's loads of info on here about operating and using the J2 Outboard Motor Kit. We've also got a sheet of paper here telling me I need to make sure the battery's fully charged before first use. So now let's get into the bits we actually get with the motor. I'll pull out the main thing here. This is the J2 motor itself. Really small, compact motor, jet propulsion motor. Got the motor body here, this white piece here, the motor body. Got a nose cone on it here, sort of to help with hydrodynamics and protect the front of the motor from knocks. And at the back, you can see here the prop in the back. It's a three-bladed prop. It's got this protective shroud around the outside of it. There's sort of a weed guard grill at the front edge of that shroud to help prevent debris from going into the motor. But yeah, really nice, small, lightweight. Lightweight. This thing weighs maybe a kilo, a couple of pounds, which is phenomenal for the motor. And Bixby, they've done a lot of research into motors and how to get the maximum efficiency out for its size. And this little motor provides 33 pounds of thrust, which is quite incredible for such a lightweight, small, tiny little bladed prop there. But yeah, really powerful little motor for its size. On top of the motor, we've got a mounting point here. You can see 4 holes, and this is used to attach the motor to all the various Bixby adapters that you can get. So that's the attachment point for the adapters. And we've got here a cable which runs back to the battery pack, which I'll show you in a second. But yeah, there's a connector on the end with a nice little connector cap to protect the terminals when not in use, but you can unplug that and it reveals the plug which you plug into the battery pack. The wire itself, that's a 5 foot 1.5 meter long wire. If you need to mount your battery further away than that, you can get extension leads that go between this and the battery pack. Although adding more length between the motor and the battery will reduce the efficiency of the motor by a small amount, so it's always worth that considering. Use the smallest length wire you can between your motor and your battery to get the maximum efficiency out of the system. But yeah, that's the J2 motor itself. That's what's going to be propelling our craft through the water. Really cool little system there, so lightweight, it's incredible. That's the motor, and let's have a look at that battery now. So this is the Bixby battery pack. And this is a battery pack, it's lithium ion. So being run by lithium is lightweight, much lighter than lead acid batteries. That's one of the great attractions to this motor kit. This battery, the motor and everything in that box, it weighs less than 10 pounds, somewhere between 9 and 10 pounds. That's incredible. That's so lightweight for something which can propel your craft through the water for quite some time. Lithium ion battery pack, it runs at 25.2 volts. It's got output of 378 watt hours. So yeah, it packs quite a punch out of this little battery pack. Got a handle on top for carrying it, and we've got various output ports on the bottom. We've got one for the motor itself, we've got one for the charger, and we've got an auxiliary port as well, so you get different cables to like charge your phone and other devices as well. That's all in a sealed protective plastic housing, because lithium can be quite a volatile material. If it gets wet, it can be quite hazardous, dangerous in a wet environment. But so it's very important that this is within a sealed container, fully waterproof, and in sort of a bash proof container as such. You know, it's going to take a whack and a knock to ever break one of these. So yeah, nice protective housing for the battery cells inside. It's apparently positively buoyant, which means it should float. I wouldn't want to risk it myself. If this went in the water, I certainly wouldn't want to take my chances with it floating and staying buoyant enough to be able to spot it on the water and grab it back out. I would always make sure this is tethered to the kayak, either clip something to the handle. There's 4 little holes on the corners, perhaps you could run some bungee cord through there to make sure it's attached securely to your craft. Now on the motor itself, on the battery pack itself, to turn it on we need this here. It's a kill switch, really important piece of kit. And there's a on button on the battery pack. To activate it, we've got to put this little magnetic fob against it. You can just see that's activated the battery pack. You see these blue lights here, that's a battery meter there, shows how much charge it's holding. It's just under full at the moment because I've literally just pulled it out of the box, so I've got to, as it said in there, fully charge it before I use it for the first time. But yeah, with that little fob on there, battery pack's activated. If my motor is plugged in, I could then run the motor. But the kill switch, really important bit of kit. So there's a cord here, quite a long cord, leading to a loop with some foam, and I could wear that over my wrist, or as I'm going to do, I'm going to put a little carabiner on that and clip it to my buoyancy aid. And what this means, if worst case scenario, I'm motoring along and for some reason I fall out the kayak, if I didn't have a kill switch on, kayak's going to keep going, leave me stranded. That's quite a dangerous situation, especially if you're on your own. You could just be left in the middle of perhaps the ocean, many miles from help. We want to avoid that at all costs, and that's why you wear a kill switch. With this attached to me, if I fall out, the kayak doesn't have to go very far before this pulls off the battery, deactivates the battery pack, and stops the motor, stops your kayak from running away from you. So when using the Bixby Motor Kit, always ensure you're wearing your kill switch. So that's the battery pack, a nice lightweight battery pack. I mean, that probably weighs, I don't know, maybe 4 kilos, or you know, maybe sort of maybe 8 pounds at most. But yeah, quite lightweight for its size. Actually, before we move on, I'll talk about run times on this motor. So I believe at full whack, which depends on the craft, the size of the craft, but if you've got the motor running at full power, you'll get about 1 hour and 20 out of this battery pack. Now, you may not need to be running it at full power all the time. Perhaps if you're saving it as your safety backup to shoot back to shore after a long session, then yeah, put it on full power and get back in as soon as you can. But for general assistance during the day, you may want to run this at sort of half power. And I think, according to the stats, you'll get maybe about 4 hours of use out of it, doing it at a sort of reduced rate running. Or if you use it at really low speeds, you can get, I think, sort of up to 12 hours out of it if you're just using it for gentle assistance as you paddle or pedal along, or for slow speed trolling use. But yeah, you know, there's enough there to give you assistance during the day should you need it, or for all day use at low speeds. Now the battery pack and the motor, it's all controlled by a small remote here. It's got several forward speeds, I think it's 12 forward speeds and 3 reverse speeds, and stop and start button. It's got a strap so you can wear that on your wrist, and I believe it floats as well. We'll try that out when we hit the water. Other things you get your charger for your battery pack. I will note that this charger is a US plug. I'm in the UK, I'm going to need one of the 2-prong US to UK adapter plugs. You see the 2 prongs there, so yeah, if you're not in the US, just be aware you may well get a US plug on your Bixby kit. But we got a charger there with that plug that plugs straight into the battery pack to charge it. But yeah, that's everything there. Only other thing we get some dielectric grease for your terminal connectors, the plugs on the sockets, just to prevent some saltwater corrosion. They're all waterproof sockets, but with anything using salt water or anywhere around the water, it's always worth putting a dab of dielectric grease on the connectors just to prolong their life. They're always a weak point on any marine electronic used around saltwater water. I will also get a little pack of some M4 bolts with domed nuts, and therefore the attachment point on the J2 motor, those holes at the top, those bolts are used to attach it to your adapter. And we're going to look at that next as we fit the J2 motor to my Hobie Outback. Installing the Bixby motor onto the Hobie Outback is made super easy thanks to this Bixby adapter designed for the Hobie Outback. And as I mentioned, Bixby do a whole range of adapters for all the popular fishing kayaks. Makes it super easy to get their motor system on your kayak. But yeah, this one here is designed to fit to the Power-Pole mounting points that you find on the back of the Hobie Outback. So on the back of the kayak we find 4 brass inserts, threaded brass inserts moulded into the kayak, designed to take the Power-Pole micro anchor accessory, but essentially it's a mounting point that you can fit various things to, including this Bixby adapter. There's 4 holes here. I'm going to show you how those fit on in a second. It's super quick, super easy. And then yeah, we've got a pole here with a mounting point at the base of it for the J2 motor to attach to. And this system, it can be hauled up onto the deck, or allows the motor to be hauled out of the water for launching and landing, or when you're in really shallow waters. But yeah, really cool little mount there, really lightweight too, so we're not adding, again, much weight to the system. But yeah, I'm going to run through installing that to the Hobie Outback now. It's super quick, super easy. Let's go. So the Bixby adapter for the Outback comes in 2 parts. We've got an adapter plate which is going to bolt to the back of the Outback. We've also got this vertical pipe section which the J2 motor fits to the bottom of, and this part ends up attaching to the mounting bracket. Also a packet of small parts, bolts and nuts and thumb screws which we'll need for the install, and we'll start by fitting this plate to the kayak. And we'll take a look at these threaded brass inserts, 4 of them at the back of the Hobie Outback here. In the packet of parts we find 4 threaded bolts. These have got a small hex in the top of them that we can fit an Allen key into, which is supplied with a kit. But essentially we're going to screw those into those threaded inserts now, and use the hex key to give those a nice tighten into those inserts so that they won't move anywhere. So we'll just go through and quickly pop those in now. Okay, so with those all nicely tightened in position, we can now add the bracket to the back. It's 4 mounting holes, which is going to pop straight over those threaded bolts there, and we've got some thumb screws here which we're going to use to tighten down this bracket to the kayak. So we just pop those on as we pop the bracket over, and screw those down as we go. Nice, quick and easy to do. So I've just done the front 2 first there. Just got those nice and tight. Then we can just put the last 2 on. There we go, it's pretty quick. So that's the bracket now firmly attached to the back of the kayak. Nice strong mounting point for our motor. Next step is to attach the Bixby to the base of the vertical pipe. And as we looked at before, there's 4 mounting holes here that line up with the 4 holes on the top of the Bixby motor. We just need to make sure it's going to be put on the right way. To the very top of the pipe, on one side we have a metal eyelet, and this is where the up-pull cord runs off. So we use this to pull the motor up out of the water. Now that's going to be facing towards the front of the kayak. So we want the thruster, the prop, to be facing the opposite direction from that as we fit this on. So yeah, just make sure you've got it the right way as you install this. It literally just slots together. There's a little groove in the top. Push it in, the wire sort of just pushes out the way, and that just then leaves us to pop through the stainless M4 bolts that come with the kit. We just push those through the holes once it's lined up, and it came with some dome head nuts, these little ones here. We're just going to pop over and tighten up. So I'm just going to go through and do that now. Okay, so I'm just using a screwdriver and spanner here to make sure they're nice and tight. So that's securely fitted to the base of this vertical pole now, just like so. That just leaves us now to attach this vertical pipe to the bracket on the back of the kayak. There's some thumb screws here which are at the attachment point. We just need to unscrew those from both sides. There's sort of a cradle mounting point on the bracket. Just need to make sure we're running the wire up and outside of that. Slots into place, and we can just pop those thumb screws back in either side to secure that pipe to the bracket. Okay, so that can now pivot on the back, so that motor can be pulled up out of the water. Now we've got the wire coming up from the motor. The kit comes with some cable ties, so we can just cable tie the cable wherever we find convenient. I'm just going to do one at the top here for now. I'll probably put a few more on there to neaten it up later, but that just keeps the wire running up alongside this vertical pipe. That then can run back to the battery, and we'll connect that up in a second. But we've also got this cord here. This is the up-pull cord. It runs from that top eyelet on the vertical pipe, and there's another eyelet just in this bracket here which we're going to run this through. It's just a case of pulling all the excess through. It's a big long cord. It runs right up to the side of the kayak, so you can reach your seat. And the kit does come with a little cleat that you can use to lock this into position. But on the Outback, I've tied a little loop in this up-haul cord, and I'm going to show you what that's for in a minute. But it allows me to pin the motor in the up-hauled position once it's up out the water, so I don't have to go leaving it, you know, worrying about it dropping back down. But yeah, right now that motor it's sort of down but not fully in position. On the back of this kit, you may not be able to see it, but there's a plastic clamp that this pipe has to go and then clip into. You'll hear it do it, hear that clip into place. Now it's quite stiff to get in there, I'm not going to lie. Takes quite a lot of pressure to push that into its clamp. Now Bixpy say if you've got the motor running and with a good drop of the motor, it sort of forces it into place. They also say sometimes you may need to push your paddle against the pole to get it to kick into place. I mean, it does seem like it takes quite a lot of force, but I've got a feeling the little plastic clamp will give a little in time and become easier. We'll test it tomorrow on the water and see how we get on. But yeah, as you drop it, if you just let it drop under gravity, it just clips in there. Now with water there's going to be more resistance against it doing that, so we'll see whether that works or not. But yeah, then you've got this up-pull cord, and when you're up there beside the kayak, you can give it a good sharp pull, and it'll pull your motor up out the water. And like I say, I've got this little loop which I'm going to show you where I clip that in a second to keep the motor pinned up out of the water, so I don't have to worry if I'm coming into the beach. We'll take a look at that next. So I'm going to show you now how I up-haul the motor. Like I say, I've tied a little loop in the up-haul cord here. On the Outback, I'm going to run this through the little tool slot that you get on the one of the sort of mountain board bits here just behind the seat. That's passed through that, so that if I accidentally drop this when I'm not using it, it's not going to go too far. I'm not going to have to go reaching right back to get it. But then yeah, I've got this loop, and I'm going to attach a small carabiner to it, just like so. Now when I want to haul up the motor, I can just give it a good pull, pull it out of that clip, and this loops here so I can clip it over my paddle bungee holder button there. That just clips it into position, so that motor, you may just be able to see it there, it's now pulled up out of the water and it's staying up, it can't drop back down. And when I want to drop it back down, I can just release it and let it clip back into its clamp. This little carabiner, I've got it so I can clip it onto my seat cords there again, so I can't go losing this, it can't go too far. But like I say, if I've forgotten to do that, because I've passed it through this fitting here, this tool holder, if I did let go of it, it's not going to go too far. I'm not going to completely lose it down the back of the kayak and not be able to pull the motor up. So yeah, one little loop, one little carabiner, quite a cool little way to up-haul and keep your motor up out the water, and to have it tethered next to you so you don't go losing that up-haul cord. Okay, so all that's left now to do is to connect the power pack up to the motor. As we saw earlier, there's a port on the power pack. It's labelled up for the motor. There's a screw cap on that just to protect the socket there. So we undo that, we undo the same on the plug from the motor. It's just a case of connecting the two up. You can only go in one orientation, so just make sure you line it up. And there's a blue screw collar. You can just see it there, blue screw collar. You quarter turn that and it locks. You feel it go around, and it locks the cable into the power pack so it can't be pulled out. Now what we've got to do is store this somewhere on the kayak. And I mentioned earlier there's some holes on the corners of the power pack here, and to one of the corners I've tied a piece of cord with a carabiner on. I'm just going to use that as a backup leash to make sure this power pack can't get too far from the kayak should I turn over at all. But on the Outback here, I've got my H crate fitted in the cargo area here, but behind it is plenty of space to store the power pack. So I'm just slot that in behind the H crate. That power pack, it's waterproof, so it doesn't matter if it gets splashed. I take my little leash, I'm just going to clip it over the bungee on the kayak here. So yeah, that's just a backup leash in case it was to shift or move. If the kayak turned over at all, it's not going to get too far away. Won't put too much stress on the connector. But now all left to do is to activate the battery pack with that magnetic fob that's on the kill switch, and that kill switch will be clipped to my buoyancy aid, so that it'll pull off and deactivate the battery should I be separated from the kayak at all. But yeah, let's take that magnetic fob, clip it to the battery. You heard it beep there, so now the system's activated and I can use the remote now to power up the battery. Now I'm not going to do that because I'm not in the water. The motor is water cooled, so it does need to be in the water. If you use it in the air, you run the risk of overheating it and damaging the motor, so do not run the Bixby motor out of the water in the air. But yeah, as it is now, it's all ready to go. But before I hit the water and give it a test, I'll just quickly show you how that's set up at the back of the kayak and how we would steer this system. Okay, so that's the Bixby J2 Outboard Motor Kit now fitted to my Hobie Outback. It was made super easy thanks to that Bixby adapter plate for the Outback, which goes straight onto the threaded inserts that you find at the back of the Hobie Outback. Yeah, really easy system. It took me maybe 10-15 minutes to set up. Really quick and easy, plug and play system. The motor, as it is, it's fixed in a forwards only position, so it's going to drive the craft forwards only. You can't steer this motor itself as it is, so to steer the craft I'm just going to use the existing steering controls on the kayak to turn the rudder and allow me to go side to side as I need to as the motor is pushing me forward. However, you can adapt this system to steer the motor. The very back of the vertical pole here, there's a pin which you can pull out of place, which is currently locking that motor in a forwards only position. By removing that, I can now turn the motor. And at the very top of the vertical pipe, there's what's called a steering wing here, or a control wing. Eyelets on either side, so you could adapt some steering lines to turn if you needed, using some controls, or you can clip on a push and pull pole, so you can push and pull as you need to steer. But as it is, you don't really need to on the Hobie Outback. You just use the existing rudder controls to steer the kayak, and yeah, to lock it in position you just get that centered, push the pin into place, it locks it in, then it prevents it moving from its off center position. Really nice, easy system. But yeah, we got the uphaul cord installed that runs up to the side of the kayak, along with the kill cord, which is on that magnetic fob on the battery power pack, which activates the whole system. That runs up again the side of the kayak here. That's clipped on to my buoyancy aid, so that should I end up in the water and separated from the kayak, it will quickly disengage that battery and cut the system off so the kayak won't be getting away. And there's that uphaul cord there that I clipped to the cord on my seat. I can just unclip that, take that loop, pull it, clip it over this paddle bungee holder here, and in doing that pulls the motor up out of the water, holds it in that position so that I can launch and land without the motor getting bashed on the bottom at all. So there we go, the Bixpy J2 Motor Kit fitted to the Hobie Outback. Super simple, super easy. Yeah, would have taken me about 15 minutes from start to finish. Nice, easy plug and play system. But we need to get it on the water now, see how it performs and see what all the fuss is about. So I'm going to get set up now, and in the morning I'll be hitting the water and we'll see how we get on. Right, so it's time to test the Bixby. I'm here on the south coast of Cornwall. It's a beautiful winter's day, nice and sunny, not much wind. We're going to head out and try and catch some mackerel, and we're going to give the Bixby a test. So that's all rigged up to the Outback now. I'm going to head out onto the water and see how we get on with it. Right, I'm just going to quickly test if the battery is positively buoyant, as they say. There we go, it floats. Nice. Right, let's see if the remote floats. There we go. Okay, so I've just paddled a little way out into the creek, so it's quite shallow and close, but now I'm going to drop the Bixby down. We'll see how we get on with it. Now, I've got a feeling it won't go straight into that clip, as I said before. Not quite, but can use the paddle to knock it in. That's just clipped it into position. So now I can fire up the motor and let's see how fast we can go. Yeah, I've just clicked a few times on the forwards button on the remote. Yeah, I can just feel it starting to move. Just cycle up through the speeds. So I think there's 12 forward settings. Getting about halfway now. Fish finder's saying 2.5 knots. Yeah, we're definitely moving. Let's go all the way to full speed. Yeah. Alright, I'm on full speed now. Just let it gather its momentum. We'll see how fast we go. Yeah, we're moving now. Okay, so the fish finder is saying 3.8 knots. 3.8 nautical miles an hour. That's not bad. That's about what I pedal at comfortably. I can go a touch faster pedaling, but you soon wear yourself out. Yeah, 3.5 to 3.8 knots. That's a comfortable speed. Turning, yeah, the rudder steers it fine. It's not the sharpest and most responsive, but more than enough. Nice. Pretty impressive for a little motor. Yeah, they head a little way out on the water, start fishing. I don't have to paddle or pedal. So just pull the motor up now and just going to see how fast I can go on the Outback normally without the motor. So I'm going along now at a comfortable pedalling pace. I'm hitting 4 knots, so it is a touch faster than the motor. But I'll tell you now, my legs will soon be burning, so it's obviously a lot easier with the motor. But yeah, a touch faster with the Mirage Drive than the Bixpy motor on the back, but you save a lot of energy if you're under motor power instead of using your legs. Right, so let's just set off with the Bixpy again. Cycle up through the speeds. Here we go, we're moving. Sort of gone to half speed there. That's picked me up to about 2.83 knots. It's not bad. Let's go full power again. Yeah, 3.5 knots. 3.6 knots. Not bad at all, considering I'm not having to do the work. Yeah, quite impressed how this is going. The turning circle is quite wide. The rudder doesn't, well, it'll turn, but it's not on the point turning as such. You need to give yourself maybe 20 yards of turning space to come right back round with yourself. But not too bad. Not too bad at all. One thing I'm going to try now is pedalling and having the motor on full power, just to see what speed I can get up to with the motor assisting me pedalling. Just picking up speed now, get the Bixpy on full power, there we go. Wow, it makes the pedals feel really light, which is strange. And let's see what speed we can get up to. Well, I'm straight up to 4.5 knots, so I'm not even pushing yet. I'm just going to film my chart plotter so you can see what speed I'm going. 4.7 knots, 5 knots.
4.8 knots, 4.9 knots, wow. There's an assistance to the pedal drive. It's giving me at least an extra, you know, half to 1 knot of speed. And the pedals feel really light, I'm not actually pushing that hard. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Straight back in. Whee. Ooh. Needs a better one. Fresh Cornish mackerel. Nice. Well guys, been going around with the Bixby Motor on for a little while now at full power. I must say I'm pretty impressed with it. Comfortably held me at about 3.5 knots on the Outback. It's quite a big kayak, so it's pushing it along quite well. For such a small motor, it's quite surprising. But yeah, pretty good. I think I'm going to keep running it, see how long I can get out of it before the battery runs out. But as I said, it's not something you may be able to rely on all day on full power. But if you're just using it to shoot out to your fishing marks, then maybe pull the motor out of the water and, you know, paddle about for a bit, and then maybe use it to move from one mark to the next. Yeah, it's going to be fine for that. Or just for general assistance for sort of low speed trolling with lures, it's going to be fine. Or just as a safety backup, you know, you've been out all day, you're getting tired on the water, you've got a mile or two to get back in to the shore, just turn the motor on, let it get you straight back in as fast as possible. Yeah, pretty useful bit of kit, pretty impressed with it, quite enjoying it. Okay, so I've had a few goes at lifting the motor up and then dropping it back down again, and with this Outback adapter, as you drop it down, you definitely need your paddle, to use your paddle to lock it into that pole clamp. Just give it one nudge with a paddle like that, it clips it into place, but it doesn't seem to want to do it under the own weight of the motor. The resistance to the water, as it falls, it just seems to slow it up and it won't clip into that clamp. But yeah, just poke it with your paddle, clip straight in, dead easy. Now that it's clipped in, I can fire up the remote and I'm on the way again. Easy. Right, I'm going to do another little test here. I've got Andrew off the back of my kayak and I'm going to try towing him with a Bixby. Let's see how it gets on, see what speed it will get up to. Here we go. We're moving. Two knots we're moving at. towing Andrew on a Feel Free Moken 10. Not bad at all. Okay guys, so I've been using the Bixby all afternoon out here on the water, and initial impressions, I'm pretty impressed with it. It's a really cool bit of kit. Yeah, at full speed it's not quite as fast as me pedalling on its own, but it's not far off at all. I mean, under full motor power, if you've not got too much wind or tide against you, 3.5 knots is achievable. Pedalling under the same scenario, I can get about 4 knots. But yeah, there's not too much between it, to be honest. I'm going at full power again now. I've got a bit of wind, a bit of tide against me now, and I'm down to about 3.1 knots, so it's not too bad. It's a lot easier than pedalling and paddling, I'll tell you that. Battery's still going. I've been using this on and off for several hours, sometimes at full speed, and quite a bit at half speed as well, just moving around, catching mackerel out here, so I'm just moving between mackerel shoals and catching some bait. But yeah, overall pretty impressed with it. Easy to fit to the kayak. It's a plug and play system, as it says on the box. It was very easy to install, and it's been easy to use. Simple controller, easy to stop start it, easy to sort of cycle up and down through the speed settings. But yeah, really cool bit of kit. If you want to get hold of one in the UK, Cornwall Canoes and the Canoe Shops Group stores there. Stockist of the Bixby Motors, so get in touch with them if you need to get hold of one in the UK, but they've got dealers across the world if you're watching from elsewhere. Well guys, this hasn't been a long-term review. It's obviously just the first time I've used this motor, but yeah, pretty impressed with it so far, and I'm sure I'll get out and use it a few more times yet and see how we get on with it long-term. So guys, hope you found that video useful. Any comments, just drop them below. Any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. And make sure you hit subscribe to my channel. There'll be plenty more videos coming just like this, where I'm rigging kayaks up, testing gear out. Okay guys, thanks for watching.